Hey guys, good afternoon. How we doing? I'm Joe Gaither, and most of you know me as the host of the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central. But I decided to get outside my realm of comfortability just a little bit because I do live in Northport, and Northport is having a very big season upon it. August 26th is the Northport Municipal Elections. You'll be able to vote for new city council members or the same city council members. You'll be able to vote for a new mayor coming up on August 26th. So I don't know a whole lot about the issues. I see what you see on Facebook. You guys know that I am mostly a sports guy. So I'm very privileged. I'm very blessed, really, to be joined by Jamie Dykes. She is your current city council member for District 4, and she was willing to come spend some time with me today and answer some questions that I had and maybe help me get more familiar with the issues and hopefully help you get more familiar, get ready to cast your votes on August 26th. I know that there's going to be a wide open community forum coming up at the beginning of August. So this will kind of be a little appetizer for that. Maybe you guys will want to get out to the community forum and ask some questions yourself. A lot of you did submit some questions into my Facebook, and I really appreciate those who did participate in that fashion. You guys can find this on YouTube, and we'll be putting this on several podcast platforms, not on the Joe Gaither Show on Bama Central, because we'll keep that very sports related. But I'm excited to get into it, and I appreciate everybody who's jumped in to join us. And I really, really appreciate Jamie for really opening this thing wide open and coming to join me today.
You're very welcome, and I'm so thankful that you had the opportunity to let me do this.
Absolutely. So I'll just we just met maybe 5 minutes ago, and I'll just ask you to maybe obviously you've been a city council member for District 4 since 2020. I moved into Tuscaloosa in 2010, but I really moved specifically to Northport spring of 2020. I'll just ask you what got you wanting to be in the city council, and maybe what's some of your background outside of the city council.
Well, I'm a lifetime resident of Tuscaloosa County. I've been in Northport for about 20 years and had a daughter go through the Tuscaloosa County school system and have always been involved in school issues and community issues. I was incredibly involved in the disaster relief recovery from the tornado. And so that I think I've just had a community spirit all along. And I had some friends that must have really hated me that got me to do this. And 5 years ago, it's so funny because people think before you've had been sitting in the hot seat, you think you can save the world and you think you can do everything that nobody else can. And because I did 5 years ago, I thought, oh, I can do this. I can do this, no problem. And it's not as easy as you think it is. So whoever said the wheels of government turn slowly, truer words have never been spoken. When you're dealing with government funds and issues that things just don't happen overnight. Main Avenue is one of those main issues. I think it was my first or second year we approved the funding for that project with MPO, and now 4 years later, we're still, people don't realize we had to access right of way all the way down Main Avenue, and that means finding people who own the properties, getting them to sign off on it. So there are a lot of nuances that people don't see behind the scenes. It's not us just getting up there on Monday nights and, you know, running through 30 or 45 minutes of an agenda and then walking out and leaving. It's definitely a 24/7 job. So, but I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed it. It's been a great learning experience, and I wouldn't trade the experience for anything in the world.
So you've been a part of the city council since 2020, and you're up for re-election here in August. What are some of the things that you're most proud of that you've accomplished in these 5 years?
I think the most my proudest thing that I have been a part of is River Run Park. Um, Having a daughter that played softball and I coached her. I played softball growing up. I've been in softball all of my life, and to see that come to fruition, and that was one of my platforms that I ran on. It was Mayor John Hinton's baby when he was in his previous term as District 3 council person, and just to watch it come to fruition. But again, it's one of those things that, we've been talking about this for a long time, and to see that it's going to actually be up and running, is amazing. And to see what it if you haven't been out there, you need to take a ride out there just to look and see what all has been done. So I think it's going to be a great boost for our economy. Um, Now our local teams, don't have to travel to go to travel ball tournaments. They can stay locally and play locally, and I think that's a huge asset to our kids who play baseball and softball.
Well, I love walking the dog down towards downtown Northport, so I'm looking forward to seeing it be completed. I'm reading that it's basically going to be done and open right before election season, the start of August. What would you say is what would you say that will do beyond just the travel ball? What do you say that will do for really the downtown Northport area as far as commerce and as far as really drawing people to Northport?
I think it's definitely going to be a draw. Travel ball is a huge sport, whether it's fast pitch softball or baseball. So anytime you can bring people into your community, I think that's obviously going to be an asset. And we are working on Fifth Street to get it redone and some sidewalks to go in up and down. So that's gonna be huge too, to have the walking access.
Better running for me and the dog. The dog
Yeah.
looks at me every day like, "Let's go walk," and by the time we're finished, she's like, "Why do we go that far?"
Well, and in the phase two, there is supposed to be a hotel, with a rooftop restaurant that sits on the opposite side of one of the championship fields that overlooks the Black Warrior River. So, heads in beds is always a good thing for the lodging tax. And, another restaurant downtown would be great. Billy's is amazing, but it's always packed.
Yes.
So,
Well, River Run Park is going to be really exciting, and I think that most of Northport, at least everybody that I come in contact with, is excited about that. But there's something on the other side of 82 that people are really split on. I'd like to just open up the conversation on University Beach and really just get you to explain or start talking about maybe what you think the project is and where it is in the timeline as far as how close it is to fruition and how it's turned into maybe gone from a water park, and maybe if my perception is wrong, please correct me, from a water park into maybe something more of a development, condos and an attraction. Maybe just what would you say about University Beach to people who have questions and concerns?
well, I have received numerous emails, and phone calls and messages from people that are vehemently opposed to it. I will say I have not come in contact with one person personally who has said that this is something that they want. I believe, in the beginning, it started out as a small water park, and some friends of mine, Matt and Nikki Ray, um, had a friend who they had gone or Matt had gone to high school with, who had done some projects in Texas, and introduced him to Glenda Webb, our city administrator, and the idea from kind of morphed from that. And in the beginning, it sounded like an amazing project. I mean, if you look at the videos, you can't help but think it's absolutely gorgeous.
Sure.
The first video I saw, I felt like I was in Cancun or Aruba. And the more I thought about it, and the more people who contacted me, you know, this is West Alabama. This is, we don't have sand here. We don't have crystal blue waters. And the location, um, is just, to me, it's a horrible location. If, this had been done on Rose Boulevard or somewhere else, away from the residential area, right in the middle of the city, there may have been a different take on it. And, unfortunately, from the get go, we were pretty much under a gag order not to discuss it. The transparency from this project has been horrible at best. Um, in my opinion, um, the biggest mistake was signing NDAs. And I get the fact that you're not trying to tip a buyer off that, hey, somebody's looking at your land, so they up the price. But the length of time that we kept quiet about it was detrimental to the project and to the city. We should have had town halls. We should have been pushing this out. The developer has been less than transparent and not speaking with residents or answering questions. The project that he did not finish, the only project that he's done like this, he did not finish in Rowlett, Texas. And I personally reached out to every single city council person in Rowlett and heard back from one, and she could not, she didn't have anything to say about him, didn't know him. And that was really a red flag for me. In the beginning, I did a lot of research before this ever came to fruition. And one of the board members on the project, he's not the developer, he's on the board. And it was a friend of Matt and Nikki Ray's that I had dinner with and had been in social settings with at chamber events. Um, Super nice guy, had a lot of vision, but he is in the entertainment world. And that's, what I've always been told is that he would be handling the entertainment side of that, not the development side. And, under the Secretary of State's office, the LLC is listed under Mr. Donahue as the developer. So I think, hindsight is 2020. I will absolutely concur to that. But the way we have handled it as a city has just lost faith in the citizens, and that should have never happened. We should have been it. You were just asking about River Run Park. Every single thing about River Run Park has been 100% transparent. The developer has been engaged in our community. He holds small forums. He's been reaching out to small businesses, how he can help them and how the park can help him or help their businesses. And it's night and day. It's absolutely night and day. And you can definitely sense the difference in the way citizens have, received it.
Mhm.
And again, hindsight is 2020, but I think if we had to do it over again, it would have been handled much differently.
In February of 2024, the city council did approve the University Beach project, but they did so by bypassing a second reading of the rules, but suspending the rules basically to go ahead and vote on that project. You were part of that unanimous vote to suspend the rules. Why did you vote to suspend the rules and not give it a little more time to breathe to come back for a second reading?
Well, suspension of the rules is temporary. I believe maximum time would have been 2 weeks to come back and vote. I was told most everyone in the building felt like I was going to vote no on the suspension of the rules. Um, I had not gotten out of my Jeep and was met at the door and was told that night, if you vote no, they're going to do a special called meeting within 24 hours and it will be at noon, and they're going to vote within 24 hours anyway on the project. So, I had literally 30 minutes to gather my thoughts and didn't have a whole lot of time to really think about it. But what I was thinking about were the room full of citizens that were there that, bringing them back in 24 hours, what good was that going to do? It was going to do absolutely no good. They, you know, were already there. There was no sense in pushing it back 24 hours. So that is the reason I voted yes. Again, hindsight's 2020, and I should have called their bluff and made them do the special called meeting or, delay the vote. But I didn't, and that's 100% on me. But it did not change the aspect of this project one iota. Again, suspension of the rules is a temporary. Legally, it's temporary. It's not permanent. So it would not have been weeks down the road that this would have been voted on. But the vote was going to be the way it was, whether it took place that night or in 24 hours. The vote would have been the same.
And it would have only taken a majority approval to get the project approved. That's
Yes.
okay. And you felt like you would have been in the minority either way, whether it been
Oh,
that night or the next day.
yeah. Oh, I was yes. I was always going to be in the minority.
Okay. Well, what do you think? What is your relationship with developer John Hughes and his relationship with the project?
Um, Really, there is no relationship. Again, his friend Matt Ray and his wife Nikki were friends of mine, and I met Mr. Hughes through them um, long after the project had been introduced to our city administrator. I, in no way, shape, form, or fashion, brought them to Northport to bring this development. Um, like I said earlier, I think John is a nice guy. I have not spoken to John since February 18th, 2024. And that night, I actually met. I had a friend of mine who is a really good friend, and she is one of Tuscaloosa's experts in hospitality and tourism, and had him meet her the night before we were to take that vote, just so she could give him the raw numbers of what tourism and hospitality numbers were in Tuscaloosa County. Um, and that's the last time I have seen or spoken to him. I don't even know that he's been. I think he was at the council meeting that February 19th. But I'm not really sure if he's even been back since then. It's always been Mr. Donahue who has presented to the commission or to the council or whatever. So, relationship is acquaintance is more of what it is. And I did find him to be, an incredibly nice guy. I think he had some successful sports developments in Texas, and had, really was thinking that he might bid for the River Run project because we had not bid that out yet. And for whatever reason, he decided not to do that, as far as I know. But relationship is quite a stretch. He's more of an acquaintance of a friend of mine. So that's there. There is, I know there are pictures all over Facebook, but I'm incredibly involved in the chamber with and have been for the last 5 years. There are pictures of me with various people all over the city, developers, builders, business owners, so it's not unusual, but of course somebody wanted to pick the picture that had him in it to put on Facebook. And really the picture was more of with Matt and Nikki than it was to be taking a picture with him. He just happened to be at the two events, and that was it. So, um, I hate that it happened that way, but it is what it is.
A lot of people seem to be under the impression that city council members have maybe a personal gain or are having a personal stake in the University Beach project. What would you say to that impression, or how would you respond to that?
I can only speak for myself, and I drive a 5-year-old Jeep. Um, I don't own my house. There has been no, I have never in the 5 years, I was actually having this conversation with somebody not too long ago. And I said, it's amazing. In the 5 years that I've been on council, never, not one time have I ever had somebody offer me a quid pro quo on something, you know. Never. So I don't, I can only speak for myself, like I said, but there has been no financial or asset gain on my end, and I don't imagine there would be, given my outspokenness of the project and my continuous voting of no. I would not be a target for them to slide me anything except a rattlesnake.
Well, where do things stand now with University Beach? Is there any way for the city to get out of the contract, alter the contract? Where do things stand as we're heading into the election? Is the new city council going to be locked into the contract? What would you say is the next step with University Beach?
Well, I think that is one of the first things, if I'm reelected, that I plan on doing right out of the gate is hiring an outside attorney who specializes in contracts to review that contract and to see what options we have. In my opinion, the contract was written where the city had absolutely no stopgaps in it at all. Um, but I'm not an attorney, I'm not a contract specialist, but if I am reelected, that will be the first thing that I request, is for someone um, outside of this outside of the Tuscaloosa County area. I mean, somebody who in the southeast who is a specialist, and I'm willing to pay that money, for the just to eat that money and have someone look at it and tell us exactly what is in it, and if there is any, if there is anything that the city can do about it. Um, at this point, I don't think it can be stopped. But again, I'm not an attorney. I don't even try to go down that road. But I think that is something that definitely needs outside legal advice. And that would be, that would be the first thing out of the gate that I would do.
So my last question on the topic really is: if it's not stopped, do you see it as a viable project? What do you see as the future in Northport if it's not stopped?
Joe, at this point,
So hard to say. So I'm asking you to project. I'm
I
sorry.
know, all I have to go on is Mr. Donahue's past.
Sure.
And I have watched the videos, the YouTube of Bayside and Sapphire Bay, and that is not what I want in our city. Um, and I have talked to people who actually have been down there, and um, I just I could be very wrong. I don't. At If you look at the past, it doesn't seem that there would be a future for whatever reason. I don't know what that reason would be. And I don't know all of the ins and outs of why they never finished the project in Rowlett. But for whatever reason, they didn't. And I know there were lawsuits involved in that. But yeah, it's so hard. I mean, all I see every Saturday when I drive by there is a pound of dirt. I mean, a mound of dirt that looks like it's going to be a ski slope
Mhm.
instead of a water park. Um, you know, m- if for whatever reason that it does continue, my hope is that it would be successful, but I just am. I don't have that again, projection to say
Certainly.
what is going to happen or what's not going to happen. So I know that he has to hit milestones within the developers agreement, and I honestly don't know um, if he's on track with that or not. I don't know, but I know they're moving a heck of a lot of dirt.
Yeah, see it when I go get my groceries on Saturdays and Sundays at Walmart. Absolutely. So we'll see what it turns into.
Right.
I want to spin you to 2023. You were the co-chair of the community outreach. You were the chair, excuse me, of the community outreach community and the co-chair of the projects community. But committee, excuse me. But you withdrew from both those committees kind of unexpectedly, and in reading some articles, there wasn't a whole lot of information why. So I'll just ask you, why did you step down from those two committees on the city from the city council?
Well, Ron Phillips actually from the Patch actually wrote a pretty in-depth article as to why I did. Um, our city administrator actually came to us and suggested work sessions. I was becoming more and more frustrated. Um, Community outreach is really handled by our staff. There's nothing. Our staff has a events committee meeting every Monday about upcoming events. So there's really not a lot going on there. I was on projects. Our engineering team is a rock star team, and there really is no reason for a projects committee. They handle everything. So I was becoming incredibly frustrated that two committees, which were finance and admin, were the ones that basically made all the decisions that were happening. And the way the committees work is you have a chair and a co-chair, and we would all sit around and have a conversation, or whoever was in attendance at whichever committee meeting. But that chair and co-chair were the ones who decided whether something went forward to council or it didn't. So there was really, not a lot of debate, not a lot of discussion that went along. And when our city administrator suggested the work sessions, I thought that was fabulous, because that way all five of us sit down in a room with the agenda and we talk about those items, and every voice in the city is represented
Sure.
by those five, not just by two people who are making the decision for it to move forward. Committees are not required by state law. The only committee that is required by state law is a finance committee that handles your audit. So it's not something that is required, and it's honestly not effective. If you want all five districts represented, you need to have all five voices heard,
For sure.
and doing it by a work session mode um, is the most effective way to let everyone's voice be heard and decide, at that point. And at the time, the council president at that time, you know, agreed that it was something that we should look at, and then it was shut down and nothing. It was something that was not entertained anymore. And I just said that, I was taking leave time from work and really not having a voice anyway. Um, so I made the decision to resign my committees. I did not resign my spot on planning and zoning. I was the chair of planning and zoning. I was forcibly removed from planning and zoning as a retaliatory act for for exiting my committees. And that was something that, we had started a comprehensive plan for the city that has followed through. I started that, and that was something that was a big step for the city. We had comprehensive plans before, but not one that was really, something that was a usable document. And so that's where it ended. And I found myself at that point, on an island.
So these work studies were supposed to replace these committees and never really took off, is
Right.
what I'm understanding.
Yeah, the work sessions. Yes.
And so they never really took off, and you stepped down from and you were retaliatory, removed from the other.
Yes, I was removed from planning and zoning. I did not step down from planning and zoning.
Okay, so if you are reelected, would you like to instate these work sessions?
Yes, that would be something that would absolutely encourage for all of the council people, that we do work sessions, and work sessions are also public, so people can come and listen. I mean,
Great.
they're usually earlier in the day than the council meetings because that's just the council meetings are at 5:30. But that way we sit down with all of the department heads, and we're talking about everything that's going on in the city.
And all 5 of you are there.
All 5 of us are
Right.
there, and the mayor, and we're all having a conversation with every department head within the city, discussing all of the items that are affecting our whole city.
Sure.
So it you get way in at one time. You don't hear, well, so and so said we need to take care of this, or so and so said that this needs to be done. You're hearing it from the horse's mouth,
Sure.
being our department heads who take care of all of that. And then we have the chance to weigh in and ask questions directly to them.
Great. A lot of people are very interested in who's backing who and what donors are who. So I'll just ask, who are your donors as you're preparing for the August election, specifically those on the higher dollar, maybe $500 or more?
Actually, I think I have maybe $3,000 in my account. I've been backed by the Northport PAC. I had $1,000 donation from a private business in Northport, and I had a $500 donation from another PAC that I don't know everybody that was in there. Ryan Phillips listed all of the people who were members of that, but I've had $200 donations from private citizens,
Sure.
and that's pretty much where my money is coming from, is just grassroots. I don't have any huge backers or anything, so I'm running on a very small, secure type budget.
You've already sort of addressed the work sessions and maybe stopping University Beach, but if you're reelected as District 4 in District 4, what are some of the other maybe goals that you might have for your time for your next term at City Council?
Well, one of the main things for District 4, and we have already got the blueprints drawn, is a linear park from not Grand Point, Glencrest to Forest Glen to Mitlary Road, down Mitlary Road, all the way to Highway 43, and then to County High.
Sweet.
So realistically, if somebody wanted to walk or ride their bike to school, they could. I don't know that a teenager is going to walk or ride their bike to school, but for adults, would be a great walking path with exercise equipment, along the way. The problem in District 4 is we are mostly residential, and the city does not own any property in District 4. So there's not an option to say, oh, we're going to go throw a park in the middle of District 4, because we don't own property. We would have to purchase that. And our engineer and I, for the last year, have been talking actually about a piece of property that's near District 4, but it's in the county. to do a dog park and walking trail and a playground. And because it's in a floodplain, it can't be used for anything else. But it happens to be in the Tuscaloosa city limits, so it's not a piece of property that we can even purchase. So, Tara Tubbs has been really good working with me, trying to do things, look outside of the box for District 4 because, like I said, we are mostly residential. I hear the corner of 69 and Mitt-Larry has been purchased. Um, I don't know anything about that because that property is in the county, so we have not been privy to any of the details of what the purchaser wants to do with that property. If he wants to do anything that's going to have water and sewer, he's going to have to annex, into the city. At which point, our people would be brought in to, consult and we'll know more about it. But right now, officially, I all I know is what I have seen on Facebook. So officially, we don't know anything about the property because it's not in the city limits.
We're hanging out today with Jamie Dykes. She is the candidate for re-election for the City Council District 4. We appreciate everybody who's been hanging out with us. I know that we've been going quite a while. We have just a few more questions. Jamie, I really appreciate your time. What I want to get into next is education. I know a lot of people. There are 10 schools that I read in the city limits. I don't have any children, but hopefully we'll have children one day. For someone who just generally, we need to get better education in Northport. What's the city council's responsibility? What can the city hall, what can city council do to get better education in Northport? You see that statement and so general and vague. What's your response to that?
Well, I was a very strong proponent of having Northport having its own school system. We did a feasibility study, and we could have afforded it by the bare skin of our teeth, and that's not what we want. We want to be able to do better. Um, the county school system and the Northport city government there's no ties. So they're two separate entities. But now with our Northport First funds, we give about $350,000 a year to the different schools that are within our district. Within our city limits. I have given most all of my discretionary funds to the schools in our district. County High, Huntington Place. I used $2,000 to make sure Huntington Place had a slide that had been
Nice.
torn. Yeah. So that's where that's how I contribute back into the schools is putting. I've done lunch for teachers at Huntington Place and at Flatwoods. But it's really apples and oranges because we don't have any control over what happens with the county schools.
Sure.
And we don't have a mechanism of just funneling them money to say, hey, use that only in the schools that are within our city limits. And again, legally, I don't know the ramifications of that. Danny Higdon, who has been just he ran unopposed in District 5. He was the CFO, retired from the county school systems. So I'm sure there will be more discussion in the coming years about the relationship with the county schools and the city of Northport. But right now, us contributing with the Northport First Funds and those of us who choose to spend our discretionary money within the school system, that's another way.
You mentioned when we were talking about University Beach, about the transparency issues that were there. I think that there's a general perception of the entire city hall and the entire really Northport government system that it's not very transparent. What would be something, what would you do about the transparency in city government?
Well, I think we need to definitely be more open with what we're doing. Obviously, there are things that we can't discuss, that
Sure.
legal issues, but there's no reason we can't have town halls. There's no reason that we can't have conversations of what's going on,
Yeah.
in Northport, basically. But it's something that definitely needs to occur, and I think that comes, with people who are elected that want that transparency and don't, you know, keep everything behind closed doors.
From someone who's not very educated, and the lack of makes it seem like there's something to hide.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I think, you know, unfortunately, University Beach has been the catalyst for that. I don't, I really don't hear people talking about anything else that is, not transparent. All of our financial records are online. You can request to see that data anytime you want to. I feel like our staff, anytime I've ever asked our staff to meet with a citizen regarding an issue, they have been more than obliging to do so. And I think the catalyst for the lack of transparency comes with the University Beach project, and that's a shame because we do have an incredible staff and incredible employees, and that is not typical of the behavior. This just happened. It happened this way.
Sure. What would you say about small businesses who are thinking about moving to Northport? What are some things that the city council might do to make it easier for a small business? Yeah, go ahead. Make it easier for a small business to come into Northport. I remember in the last year and change, you have Lost Pizza that's by my house. You got the Strange Brew that's by my house. I know Jake's Juke Joint has moved in as well. So a couple restaurants have moved in. But as small businesses in general, what do you think about making it easier, or some of the hurdles that they may face in Northport?
One thing that I'm a huge proponent of is hiring an economic development specialist, someone that is their job only. That's all they do is recruit businesses to come to the city. Um, I have spoken with our planning director, and we've talked about getting with some small business owners, some builders, to see how we can refine our processes to make it easier for businesses to do business in Northport. That was the one thing that I heard when I was running in 2020, is people were just kept saying, you can't do business in Northport. It's too hard to do business in Northport. And I'm really, 5 years later, I'm not really sure what makes that happen. There are codes that have to be followed. There are ordinances that have to be followed. There are laws that have to be followed. There's protocol. Every department we have has procedures, inspectors, so there are certain things that have to be done. So we don't cut corners to make sure that things, that are built in Northport are for the betterment of the city. So, I don't. I would like to delve a little bit deeper into that and see, what we can do to make it a little bit more streamlined. I would love to have a button on our webpage and that says, if you want to open a business, these are your steps. And then it lists how, what steps you have to go through to open a business in Northport, whether it be, you know, out of your home or, a brick and mortar building or online, whatever. So that's one thing that I would like to see, like to see us do as well. But I think for the growth of Northport, I am 100% for responsible growth. I would like to see Northport prosper more than anything. But I think in order to do that, we need an economic development specialist. I think that's something that is crucial to Northport's future. And with River Run Park being here, I think, we are going to see more businesses coming to the area, and we need a point person that does that and someone who is out recruiting responsible businesses to come to Northport. We have multiple of certain things that we really don't need anymore of. So let's go and see if we can't recruit, something that's different. Um, so that is something that I definitely am a huge proponent of. Is It's just the responsible growth and someone who knows economic development, and that's the best way to do it, is to have someone that's their dedicated job, is bring in responsible growth to Northport.
What kind of businesses might be on Jamie Dykes' wish list? Obviously, it's a wish list, so it doesn't mean it happening. But if you were brainstorming,
Everybody I talk to wants a Trader Joe's and a Costco,
yes.
and I can't disagree with that at all. That would be fabulous. You know, I just I want what's going to benefit Northport. I don't. You know, I miss Red Lobster. I know I'm the only person in the universe that misses Red Lobster, but
They
boy,
got those seafood bowls now that look like we need to
I
take advantage
know.
of
I
them.
would take one of those in a heartbeat. But, I would just like to see things that our residents want. And that, and I also know the other side of that. There are demographics that these businesses look at, to see whether they're going to build a Kohl's here, or somebody wants to build, a strip mall with X number of restaurants. And, that's one of the things that I pointed at Mr. Donahue. He has multiple retail spaces in this University Beach project, and it doesn't take but a 5-minute drive down Lurleen Wallace and downtown Tuscaloosa to see all of the vacant storefronts. Um, you know, I see it every day. Buddy's Steakhouse closed because of staffing. They couldn't keep staff. So, you know, it's a catch 22. You've got to have people to work these things, but you've got to bring them in. But then again, on the other side, you've got to have people to work them. So it is definitely a catch 22. But again, I think having someone who is an economic development person, is able to figure all of that out and to bring the companies who our demographics fit um, to Northport. I think that's the way to do it.
We're hanging out with Jamie Dykes, and she's running for re-election from District 4 City Council. You're running against Randall Hope Clark. Can you say something nice about him?
Honestly, I don't know Mr. Clark. I do know that his dad had a couple of businesses in Northport. I was a frequent participant at Clark's before 43 Prime. So I think he has, the wisdom from his dad, where small businesses come from. So I think he brings that to the table, but I've never met him personally and have never spoken to him. So outside of that, there's really not a lot I can say one way or the other.
I'll give you the last word. I'm out of questions. So anything that you want to say to your constituents and everybody in Northport, remember the election is August 26th. Jamie Dykes, thank you for your time. I'll leave you the last word here.
I thank you so much for doing this. There are a lot of things. Facebook has the opportunity to let keyboard warriors rule the world. And, not everything that you read on Facebook is true. And, I encourage you to get out and, do your research and talk, call me. I have put my phone number on my on my website, on my Facebook page, my email address.
I'd say that's rare.
Yeah, I I completely transparent. I have nothing to hide. And call me if you have a question about something. Pick up the phone and call me. I noticed someone that I've known for years. Uh, Someone sent me a screenshot of a question that he asked about um, the unanimous consent, the rules, suspension of the rules. And my first thought was, why didn't he call me and ask me that? It's gotten to be such a vile place to be, that I tend to stay off social media. So I don't go, and I'm not in Messenger. I don't have it on my phone for a reason. But I do check my email. I have a full-time job. I also have a 23-year-old daughter. So this
She doesn't keep you
is
busy, does she?
no, she does not. We were painting her house the other day. So there's always something going on. And, there are things that do slip through the cracks. A lady sent me some pictures of some potholes, and she said, "Did you not get my pictures?" And they were in my junk mail, and she had emailed me before. So things like that happen, and I never think to check my junk mail.
Mhm.
But there's a lot of things that this council have done. The repaving being the biggest chunk of what we have been able to do in the city. There have been a lot of good things that have happened River Run Park again is one of those things. And you know, I I'm here for anybody to call, ask me a question. I don't have anything that I can't talk about. I'm not under any NDAs or gag orders or anything. But I just encourage people to not necessarily believe everything that you see on Facebook, and reach out to the candidates, all of them, not just the new ones that are running, but the incumbents. Ask questions, and that's the best way to find out who is the best person for the job. And I would like to finish some things that I started, and really would like the chance to have 4 more years to see the responsible growth in Northport and things turn around.
She's Jamie Dykes, and she's running for re-election in city council. You can vote for her District 4 on August 26th. I've had a lot of fun, and I think I'm a little bit smarter today. I know that I'm not the expert, but I'm trying to get to know the issues and trying to get to know the candidates. I appreciate everybody for joining us today, and I hope to see you on August 26th.